One of the biggest turnoffs in any series, be it manga or anime, is the overcomplication of the most simple parts. The power system, the story, the characters. Don't try and give me a clusterfuck of ideas, give me simple, cohesive, heartfelt and honest, then you've got yourself a fan. We start with Kafka Hibino, a 32-year-old man working for a professional kaiju cleaning company. His main job function is to clean up the remains of kaiju after they've been dealt with. The reason this character's age is important for once is that he's been through the grind long enough to understand sometimes you've got to just give up on your dreams and settle with making ends meet, and just simply surviving. The universe doesn't owe you talent, nor does it owe you results for your perceived hard work. Try as you might, you could end up in that cushy office job with good benefits and a pension. But don't let Kafka's current predicament fool you. He did have dreams. He was supposed to be on the other side of this kaiju mess, the one fighting and protecting not just civilians but his childhood friend. But it turns out he just wasn't cut out for this line of work. However, his friend was clearly about that action. But something changes. A spark is ignited in Kafka's life when he's reminded that he quit, not only in his dreams but on himself. He made excuses, ran from the truth instead of fighting tooth and nail to see it through. Kafka accepted that this was just the way it had to be and was consumed by the mindless grind and simply joined the workforce. After an incident on the job, Kafka was hospitalized, and not too long after he becomes a kaiju. Now, like me, you probably have a lot of questions. Why Kafka? Is he special? Is there a compatibility rating with kaiju and human blood? If Kafka isn't special, why him? Can this happen to anyone and everyone? And if so, why are we following Kafka? These are all very good questions, and the answer to all of them is so clear. I have no idea. The one thing we do have to go off is before Kafka deep throats a kaiju, the kaiju says, "I found you." The mystery surrounding Kafka aside, I think this manga shines in its simplicity and relatability. Anyone that's worked a job can relate to the grind that Kafka's been through. Sometimes you'll never get that dream job. You won't be free from the 9 to 5, and you'll have to watch on as your peers live out your dreams and their own, while you're stuck in the background. The story forces you to watch Kafka struggle at every single point, and you can't look away. It comes with a dreadful realization that he just may never be cut out for this line of work, until he is. The fighting and combat system is something I'll come back to later, but Kafka's first use of his kaiju abilities gave me goosebumps. The dude turned into the personification of get him gone quick. In the second chapter, he disintegrates a kaiju and makes it rain blood. This was so fire. Regardless of all the heat he can bring to fights, there's still one line that Kafka's inevitably crossed, the boundary of being human. Regardless of how you slice this, there comes this daunting realization that even though he has retained his humanity, is he still considered human? By ingesting a kaiju, you've obviously changed the genetic makeup of your body to some degree. So whether he's a cross between the two or on the journey to becoming a fully functioning kaiju, it calls into question his humanity, and if his kaijufication affects this. But it's because of this so-called humanity Kafka is so likable. It's because he has multiple save the cat moments. The concept of Save the Cat comes from a book called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder on screenwriting and telling stories, and the concept's really simple. We like the heroes we like because there's something redeemable about them. They have a scene upon their introduction where they save a metaphorical cat. This could be someone's job or life. Regardless of what plot device is used to represent this cat, this Save the Cat scene generates a reason to like our protagonist at all. It makes us realize that even if they were to go off the rails, there is still something about them worth saving, especially someone like Kafka that gave up on his dreams but steps up when it matters the most. Kafka has many Save the Cat moments where his humanity can't be questioned at all, even after he's been turned into a kaiju. We know that as an audience, but Kafka has to convince the world and himself that he's still on the right side of all this. He's been given power without cost, and it's very reasonable to think Kafka's change has tremendous repercussions not just on him, but those he holds truly dear. Will his heart waver and be consumed by that which he sought to destroy, or is humanity stronger than we could ever imagine? I'm not a particularly insightful person, but every time I think of this manga, I think of the word humanity and just being human. What does that mean? I remember this trend on TikTok one time titled the indomitable human spirit, and it was just filled with people doing triumphant shit. It filled me with a feeling. Was that my pride as a human? Was that my sense of humanity? I don't know exactly, and I can't really tell you what that feeling was, nor can I tell you what it meant, but it was something far removed from the concept of solely being human. It was more than that, and whether it was the author's intention or not, to me Kafka represented that clearly, the indomitable human spirit. The guy makes an honest living and gave his dreams a good shot, and watching his unfortunate circumstances put his dreams at risk is truly quite sad. But Kafka's genuine effort to put himself forward and be useful regardless of the risk doesn't feel like some cliche anime shit we always get. It feels a little like it's grounded in reality. The world's at turmoil with the kaiju, and regardless of how he's seen by others, Kafka gives it his best and represents all the parts in humans that don't suck. He'll do anything to protect the relationships he's built with people while chasing a goal he's dreamt of his entire life, and trying his best to do it on his own terms. But don't get me wrong, he's not all serious and brooding all the time. The guy knows how to have a bit of fun. The characters in Kaiju number 8 are a whirlwind of fun in general. Even though the manga tends to step towards a more serious tone, it certainly doesn't stop characters from having fun from time to time. But when shit hits the fan, the tone is switched immediately. because at the end of the day, if they're careless, it costs people their lives. They all have mini narratives that are followed throughout the manga, and it's genuinely a nice surprise when you get a holistic picture of the various moving parts inside the defense force. You're never really blindsided by a new power-up or some new development. You're given a bird's eye view on this organization, and it's nice to have. Now, remember when I said I'll get back to the fighting? Well, here we go. I think Kaiju number 8's fighting can be summed up in one word: hands. The combat in Kaiju number 8 is impactful. When Kafka raises his fist to go toe-to-toe with a kaiju and he severely outmatches them, they disintegrate. But Kafka isn't the only scary combatant in this whole manga. You have a lot of strong characters that continuously provide you absolute soul-touching moments of bad arsery. And as much as we follow Kafka, we are still reminded there are plenty of Defense Force soldiers on their own journey to attain unrivaled power. There's one piece of a quote that rings true as you read through this manga. One very prominent character says, "Show me overwhelming skill." I mean, if that doesn't tell you what kind of fighting you'll get in Kaiju number 8, I don't know what will. There's a bunch of different fighting styles on display. There's hand-to-hand combat, dual wielding, and of course some gunplay. The combat system is unique yet simple, and it genuinely allows for different characters to be amazing at different things. And there's no shortage of moments that will leave you thinking, God damn! These are some bad motherfuckers. And to be honest, they have to be. They're fighting against some very scary shit. The world isn't privy to the concept of kaijus becoming human, but we quickly learn that this is not only a possibility, but this opens up so many doors to a hailstorm of death and anarchy. The main enemy is a kaiju called number 9. Now, this doesn't mean anything at this moment in time, but you come to learn particularly strong kaiju with a fortitude level over a certain value are given numbers. A higher number doesn't mean stronger, but instead in order of identification. Number 9 is one of those special type of kaiju, capable of thought and reason. It's cold, analytical, and unforgiving, and he's able to claim human bodies and claim them as a host. But don't let this shonen title fool you. Number 9 is about that action. It's genuinely dangerous and sickening, and at times it almost feels as if it's enjoying what it's doing. It takes our characters to the edge and fucks with their emotions, so it's very clear that these characters have to be absolute badasses. But having said all this, there's one character I seem to have taken a liking to. I won't tell you too much about him, but just know he's a soldier through and through, the symbol of the Defense Force, a man hailed as truly the strongest to ever grace its ranks. And there's even a cooler part to his story that ties in with other characters, so to save from spoiling, just remember the name Shinomiya. Right now, aside from Sakamoto Days, I generally don't think there's another manga that deserves an anime adaptation more right now. Some of you will say, ooh, Dandadan and Undead Unluck. Well, I've only just started reading Undead Unluck and I haven't read Dandadan, so I don't know if they deserve it or not. They probably do, but I just feel as if Kaiju number 8 will just hit different for some reason. Call it instinct or a gut feeling. There's something about this manga I think people will relate to. Kafka speaks to the general notion of just existing nowadays and trying to stay afloat, and seeing that animated with music, voice actors, and crisp, clean animation could lead to another undercover shonen giant. It just doesn't mess with the formula. It runs up to the cliche and turns at the last second by making the character relatable. Don't get me wrong, this isn't so fresh and original it's shocking, because there are some things that you can sort of see coming, but this is what I call good old shonen fun.